what I was talking earlier before. So basically, what I was saying, the leadership is a way of life, how all of us can have and can develop that kind of model where we think differently, we look at situations differently, and we create our own leadership styles. Next one. So what can we do and how can we adhere to that? Next one. So what I was going to say that, neuroscience has helped us understand some of the principles which may help to see how learning about brain can help us learning about leadership. Very broadly speaking, this is the major part of the brain. Like, you have our thinking brain, we call rational brain or prefrontal cortex, and we have our emotional brain, which is limbic system, and amygdala is the part which gets triggered very quickly when you are in difficult or stressful situations. So basically, these two brains always communicate with each other, and whenever there is a stress, the brain feels threatened, and you feel threatened, and then your executive functions shuts down, and your sympathetic nervous system kind of like gets activated, and you are like very stressed, and you have some physical signs of stress, and at that time your executive functions of your brain, which is the decision making and memory and executive power, that shuts down. So you don't really think straight at that time. You must have seen and realized that when you are in that difficult situation, that you're not making sense, you're not even coherent, and that happens sometime. So, and in very extreme difficult situation, they call it amygdala hijack, that you're not making any sense. It's so difficult for you to handle whatever is happening around you that you're not in control and you lose control. And we have seen that kind of situation in our life with people, and sometimes you may have this kind of situation where we cannot control, and we lose control upon ourselves, and we just basically realize that later on you feel guilty what you've done or said to people around you. So there are neuroscience also gave us some answers of that, and they say, they call it basically leaving the situation. Basically what happened when you are in that state, your attention is focused upon the situation. So you have to shift your attention to something else. And whenever you shift your attention, your mind changes, and that shifting of attention could be leaving the situation, leaving the premises, getting up, drinking some water, sitting down, and all these things you have to do just to break that cycle. And sometimes they said, just start counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because what happened, when you start counting, you are utilizing your executive function. You're really trying to pay attention. And at that time, that breaks that cycle. So understanding that, that relationship of our brain will help us to manage that difficult situation sometime. So what are some of the self-management tips and skills I can talk, which we can learn and have that make that leadership is part of our life? So I was talking to Brother Umar earlier in the break time, and he was telling me certain leadership models, and I said to him, we are always talking about leaders who have positions or power or authority. And he said to me, he said, we are all leading every single day in all different aspects, but we don't realize that. So my approach is, I was saying, like, I think top-down approach versus bottom-up, right? So you realize and you recognize people who don't have any position of power, who don't have any authority, but they're realizing and they're living a life with purpose. They have passion. They are making a difference. They contribute. They serve. They manage themselves. They control their situation well. And then to answer Noren, you are a leader in your own way, even if you can't change your hierarchy, because you're doing your best. and you are an example, and you are making a difference. What Omar was talking, like, you have to utilize all the channels. So this is all leadership, which I call it, like, so now what else you can do to cultivate these principles and bring that back to your life? What I have to say, there are some barriers we have to remove and look at it. And some of the best thing you have to see, look at your life and see, how do you think? We are never trained how to think. There are books written about it, thinking, and of course we talk about positive thinking, negative thinking, but you have to realize, find out about yourself, where you're at, what kind of thinking you have. Are you always negative, focusing on the negative, paying attention to what's wrong with people, or you are different? I was listening, and it was I was telling Amreen about, as if somebody interviewed. It was a beautiful story. The lady is like in her 60s, 65, and she said, so somebody was interviewing her and said, how come? Oh yes, back home. Omar said, give present examples. I will. So this was example actually at the institute they showed, and they shared, and they said, like, this person was just living in a village, serving and helping, and then very kind and nice, and does the business at her village and supplies throughout the village, like oil. She makes oil at her home. And they interviewed her, said, how come you're doing this? She said, when I was 26, I was divorced or widowed, I forgot. And she said, I was always bad, like negative and complaining. Then I realized that kind of attitude is not helping me. So I just made 360-degree turn. I said, I'm not going to be doing like that. I'm not going to be living like this. So she changed. So you realize that, look at your faults and look at where you are at and what kind of thinking you have, because thinking, emotions, and actions are like a triad. What do you think, how you feel, and the way you act, they all work together. The more you think better and you think positive, hang around with positive people, people who will uplift you, empower you, you will feel better. When you feel better, you'll do better. So it's all connected. And then at the same time, creating a space for yourself, because if you look at your day, every day you are so busy, you are bombarded with things. Of course, these devices don't leave us alone, and we are always connected, and we don't have any moment. So you have to create a space for yourself, because what I'm trying to do and trying to advise here, how you can unleash your rational and thinking brain, where you can bringing that power towards your thinking brain and giving and increasing that capacity for that, because you need time, you need some space for that. If all day long you're bombarded with things and you're just going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and you're so busy, you don't have any time for yourself. You don't even think, you just don't take care of yourself because you're so busy. So things will not change if you don't create a space for yourself. You may have to schedule things for yourself, time for yourself, and put that phone at airplane mode at that time, so nobody will disturb you. You will not get notification. At that time, you may have time for reflection, thinking how's your day, how can you improve, what you can do differently. All these kind of things will happen when you create a space for yourself. Otherwise, life will just go on, and then you call, I'm just going with the flow. I don't have a say. I don't have time. I have this to do, have that to do. Because you're the one who should manage your life, not the life and time should manage you, right? So then by doing all that, basically what we are doing, we are freeing up our mental capacity. We have more time to think positive. We have more time to ponder. We have more time to have creative thoughts and creative thinking. And literally, I have to say, if I have to admit that where did my life change, I mean, I was the backseater in my classes. Some of my classmates are online, they're watching me, they look at it, and they know the situation. I admit to that. And what I will say that, that if I was like that, how did I change? Because that kind of lifestyle, that kind of environment that kind of professors in college and people who are your teachers, they're not very uplifting. They're not very empowering you. They are basically just doing the job what they know. And then how did I change? I basically created time and space for myself. I started writing journals, taking time, and then of course learning and improving myself, and that gave me some creativity. Omar was saying about the books I've been writing. Hopefully it'll come soon. So many things are going on. So basically what I'm saying, when you are freeing up yourself and increasing your mental capacity, then you realize, am I taking care of my health? How is my physical health? Because how is your health? If you're taking care of your health, and that includes your nutrition, your fitness, and exercise, and sleep, all these three things are very important for your health. If you neglect that, that will affect all your aspects of your day, because you will be lazy, you won't be motivated if you don't eat right. And the same thing, and I call this, like in my seminar, like 5 domains. The physical domain is one, and you have to address all these domains in your life, which is, second one is mental. How do you learn? Imagine that they say that if you graduated from medical school and residency and you are in training, you're just starting to work, they said if you spend an hour in your specialty every single day, just an hour, in 5 years they said you'll be at the top in your field. So it tells us that in this time of information age, if we utilize our time, if we know how to learn and how to manage our time well, we can really do well in our professional life as well. And same thing, utilizing your car when you're going, if you have a commute, how do you use your time? Do you just watch news and information, or is something productive in your profession, in your spiritual life, things which you can learn and improve yourself? So you have to know how do you distribute your learning this, even during your time at work, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you find time for you to learn. So because this will give you like intellectual stimulation for yourself, and you keep on growing. Once you develop the taste of learning, you will always find time to learn. So mental domain, social domain, who do you interact with, what kind of company you have, who's your friends, what you discuss, what you talk. You want to be smart in that, because we've seen our gathering, we've seen our dawats, what we can say, where men talking about politics, women are sitting in separately, children are in the basement, and we can be utilizing that gathering or that gathering of people in much positive fashion. I gave a seminar at the masjid once. It was so it was all about social encounters, how we can improve and make better of our social encounters. I say do's and don'ts of social encounters. Don't make just one person talk for the entire time. Give voice to everyone. People, the host should be introducing everyone to the guests. So who's coming? So what do you do? So making sure that you're formulating connections, and then you can just help each other in that session. You don't even have to go around. We have such a big network of community and friends. If we know everybody's strengths and what they can do for others, we can be helping each other in all different ways. And same thing, like serving and helping and learning, all these things, positive things, can happen in our social encounters. So we have to but we have to find and create a space, or think differently. Who do you invite? Where do you go? Who's your friends are? What are the things you can learn? Because wherever you are, you can find people whom you can learn better, and then when you learn, you can be mentor for many other people. Same thing, spiritual domain. You have to make sure that you've done things for your spirits, and things which you do help serve the community, and do things for helping people for the sake of God, and creating all different kinds of projects which benefit many people around you, because these are the things when you will do for others will give you some kind of a strength and belief in your spirits. And then same thing in your worship, in your prayers, in your du'as, you realize that if you don't have a good day, if you don't take care of your soul, if you're just kind of bombarded with information and things in the materialistic life, you feel like you have no purpose, you have nothing, you feel like numb and don't feel anything. So you have to develop and you have to find and maintain and create a balance, and by freeing up your mental capacity will only happen when you create a space for yourself. It will not just happen automatically. You have to do it for yourself. Can the next one, please? Bismillah. So here I'm going to briefly discuss about the SCARF model. Basically, it's the same combination they talk about, where how the emotional brain and the intellectual brain, what can we do when we encounter with other people, and how a leader can influence and make a difference, a positive difference in the life of other person. So they talk about status. So whenever you interact with people, two things are happening. Either you are creating a threat state for that person, you're making him upset or stress him out, or you create a reward state for that person, which is you're making him feel good, empowering him, or doing something good. So basically, this SCARF model, they come up in 2008 or 9. It's been in practice for 8-9 years, and many organizations are utilizing that model. It is very helpful, because what happened, this is by applying that model, they're changing the landscape of the businesses, and they're saying how you can treat people. You have to make sure, knowing the status of person. Everybody's status is not the same. Some people of high power, some people who are intellectual, who are smart, and they bring different things to the table. So they have different contribution. So you have to treat them differently, because imagine if a person of influence and power, you disgrace him, you dishonor him in front of the world, in front of public, what he will do to you. You created a threatening situation for him. He's not going to help you or in any fashion, because you want people to be on your team. So this is how you maintain that status. You want to create a certainty for people. Basically, people will feel that, oh, my position at this work is certain. I'm not going to be replaced. They're not just going to kick me out. I'm sure that they are taking care of me. You want to be certain that you have, like, position which you'll stay at this position. And the same thing for autonomy. People want to make sure that they have autonomy in what they do. And then relatedness means, am I just somebody or nobody, right? Does it matter if I say things, if I give feedback, if they're going to listen to me or no? And fairness, same thing with fairness, where basically you realize that, am I treated fairly? Am I, people in my organization, are they like, they're fair in everything? And when I look at the SCARF model, I was talking earlier that how do you look at the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that he taught and dealt with people, and he fulfilled all the criteria a long time ago, and he dealt with people of status differently. He dealt with the king differently, with the child differently, and with the Bedouin differently. He made sure he gave them hope and certainty. He gave people autonomy. 17 years old was in charge of the battlefield at that time. He gave them autonomy, and he made sure that that you are related, that you are counted, and you're taken care of. And then he was fair. Even he was fair with his daughter, and said, I'm like, even I cannot help you, and I have to be fair. If you do something which is not according to Islam, you will be held accountable for that. So he was fair. So all the this SCARF model is very, very helpful for people to know. Basically, it's a psychological safety for people. So either you are creating a safe place for them or unsafe place for them. So that model is really helpful to know and see how leaders. This is a brief video about the SCARF model, and the founder of the David Rock is the founder of the Neuro Leadership Institute. It's like a minute long, so he tells a little bit of a details about it. So just pay attention. Bismillah. Display. So the next thing you want to add to, which is growth mindset. How many people know about growth mindset? Can somebody share with me what you mean by growth mindset? So basically, what Dr. Zahid Beg was talking about growth mindset, and I'll just give you briefly a background of that, and actually we can all relate to that. It's actually very true that the author of this, I would say, she wrote a book, but it's a whole philosophy. She's a psychologist at, I think, at University of Stanford now, Carol Dweck. So I listened to her find out how did she come up with this model. And she said, in the 90s, we had the movement of self-esteem, that we realized before 1990 that, oh, we were not appreciated, we were not taken care of, we had low self-esteem. Then in the 90s, people started doing the opposite. Everybody was praising and would just want to make sure that you're not hurt and you're appreciated, and we value your intellect. We say you have to be the best, you're smart. We praise them all the time. And we can all relate to that in our upbringing with our children. We're doing the same thing. You have teachers just trying to cater to the parents' need. Everybody gets some kind of reward, some kind of award, right? Even if they have not done anything exceptional, because they don't want to hurt kids' feeling. And then, so she's starting to see that. She said that had the impact of that kind of upbringing was not that great. So we have those millennials in this workforce now, which they are very, like, you cannot really hurt them or criticize or give them any feedback, because they can't take it, because they think they're the best, because they've been told all along in their school, by their parents, in their environment, in their culture, that you're smart, you're the best, you can do best, you're nothing but best. And so they have not gone through any failures, and they don't know how to handle failures. When they come in the workplace, they tell them, oh, you're not the best, you're just, like everybody else. That's how they can take it, and they keep job changing, because they're not looking what they've been trained and grow up with. So she realized that, the impact of that kind of upbringing, where we always focusing on the praises. And she said, well, she advised people, and she said, even in schools, she's doing training at schools and at businesses. It's like, don't tell your children, don't praise them for their results, for their A's and effort, like, getting into good schools, so that you're so smart, you're so intelligent. He said, by doing that, we're just putting them in a box. So now what they will do, they know, oh, the parents love when I do well, and then they always try to be in that box. They will not try to do or attempt anything different where they may fail, and they'll just try to be in that box where they can just only do good. So she said, what you can do, you can praise the effort, you can praise the hard work, you can praise the strategy, and you can praise that, but don't try to praise their intellect and abilities and all these things, because these things are changing. And now they realize that, when they're doing a lot of research and going to different schools and telling children that Einstein and Edison, they've worked and struggled for years and years and years, and failed before they discovered the light bulb or came up with the theory of relativity. And the kids were shocked. They said, oh, we thought they were so smart. They just happened to know all these things. And they didn't realize that the hard work and learning from failures is a part of life. So she brought this concept, and this concept is been growing in businesses, and it's actually helping the people who have that kind of type 1 model, which I was describing earlier, which is like, very autocratic lifestyle. They think, because now it's a change environment. Everybody has to change. They're learning. They have to learn different things. They have different subordinates, different followers. They cannot be doing and living that kind of model in this day and age. So they're coming up with this, say, and so some of the things we say, failure is an opportunity to grow, because every time we realize that, that failures are the building block for success. And same thing, I can learn to do better things. Challenges help me grow. So basically, it's all about growing and making and just learning, and that makes the difference, and that'll make you stronger and a better human being and a better worker. So this concept of growth mindset was an eye-opener for many businesses, for many people, for myself. I still struggle. My daughter tells me, you have fixed mindset, you preach growth mindset, but you have fixed mindset. I said, I'm trying, I'm working. It's a journey, it's not a destination. So we can go to the next slide. So I think just next one. this quote I came up with, and I said, tell me and I will forget, show me and I may remember, involve me and I will understand. So it's basically kind of the sum up of what I was talking, that telling and showing is very different than involving. People want to be understood and taken care of. So in summary, what I will describe, like what we have covered so far, it's important to review sometime. So basically, I described and spoken about the models of leadership, the traditional models of leadership, autocratic, authoritative style. Then I talked about the science behind power, how power blind people. They think they're doing the right thing, but they may be detrimental to the organization, but they don't realize, they don't feel that, they have no understanding or insight that they are doing wrong, but they have that kind of, like, that's what happened with power. So that has to be balanced, and that has to be dealt in a way that it's not detrimental for that person and for the organization and for the employers. And the next thing I discussed about the newer versions of leadership, how a leader can develop and like utilize the skills like emotional intelligence, empathy, learning and listening and managing his emotions, understanding his team and developing them and creating leaders, because that kind of model is happening in many organizations, and especially in this age of knowledge workers, where people want to be appreciated, they want to have autonomy, they want to follow their passion. So you want to have a leader who understands them and develop and have that kind of lifestyle. Then I spoken about like how leadership cannot be just a position or a power. It can be part of your life, and everybody can learn these skills to become a leader. And how do you do that? It's a unique way of living. Everybody is different, right? So some people, we talk about the temperament. There are temperament people are very high caloric, strong temperament, and there are others that are melancholic. They're introverted, they're shy. It doesn't mean they can't be leaders. They can be. There's a leadership model called quiet. Susan came up with this. Susan Cain, she's the author. She teaches at Harvard, and she wrote about quiet leadership. And I think that's a very, very great model, because we always compliment, admire, and consider people who are leaders, who are like outgoing and social and heroic style. So, and then like, and how do you develop other skills and deal with people differently? Some people are, so you have, a leader has to know that every situation, every person is different. They have to learn how to handle and deal things in a different fashion. Then I spoken about how do you create a space, how do you understand your brain and find time for yourself and take care of all your needs and everything. So this was my humble attempt to speak about the leadership model, and I think I appreciate all of you coming and people who on the live stream, and I try my best and hope you learn something, and go home, and if anybody can have any questions, please feel free for reflection or question answers, so we can learn from each other and I can learn from you, inshallah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.